Hi everybody and welcome back to my modeling channel. So today we're going to build an Airbus A320 from a French manufacturer called LR, and the scale is a little bit different of what we used to do as it's a 1/25 scale. So let's open the box and see what we have inside. So it's the first time I'm using this manufacturer. And so let's see what we have on the sprues. So the first sprue, that's a pretty big, actually, it's a pretty big model. Of course, I did not expect that scale to be this way, but it's perfect. So the first sprue is the first half of the fuselage. I have to say that the panel lines are engraved. We have, funnily, there are some funny things on the horizontal stabilizer. It's like they put a pitot tube on that stabilizer. There's a rotating beacon on the top, but except that, it seems to be a pretty decent kit. So the second part will be the other half of the fuselage. We have also the under wing with the flaps fairing, the fan disc, the main wheels for the landing gear, all the wheels. And the third sprue is basically the engines, as you can see. So the engines are in two parts, just to half. There might be a little bit of work, extra work, as you can see. I mean, this has been filled up over here and there. So it might be, it might require a little bit of a cutting and refitting. I don't know if I will have the patience to do that. And the overside of the wing, basically, with some the panel lines. The last part is the cockpit windows and the passenger window. So I don't know if I will have some decals, but it seems like I'll have to do a little bit of masking to make sure that everything is done the correct way. So let's move to the decal sheet. Wow, that's a pretty big one. So we have to do. We have the choice of doing the Air France A320. They have the basically all the parts and the decals. So we could do the all retro scam. It was done quite a few years ago. And you also have the regular, the old, I would say, barcode tail from Air France. And actually there are two, so we'll have to see which one is which one. You have all the panel lines, you know, the corrugator and the structure panels and informations, and the doors. The doors don't really seem to be at the correct shape, but we'll see about that later. Now, there is no decal for the cockpit windows, so I will have to cover them myself. Now, we have a big, this is an A4 format booklet for the instruction sheet. So you most probably have the information about the kit, then all the details and the instruction sheet of this kit. So it's about 3 pages, and then you're gonna have, I imagine, 2 pages with the scheme, the painting for the classic livery or the actual, the former actual livery of the Air France A320. And you have 2 of them. I mean, one is a little bit bigger than expected, and the other one is a smaller. So I will most probably work on pictures to see which one is more accurate. But I won't add any extra decals, as I haven't found any so far. So enough of talking, and let's start building. We're gonna start that build by, of course, cutting our parts and get everything ready. So for this kit, well, I was not really impressed with the mold initially. There was quite a bit of preparation for the parts, especially the wings. And so after getting everything ready, we start gluing the parts together. So then we will let them dry. The next point will be to start assemble the engine together. And I was pretty basic. and there was no outside, and not a lot of details on those engines, so those would have to come out later. Of course, once the glue is dried, it's time to add some putty to fill up all the gaps. And then we're gonna add some white modeling paste on the front of the aircraft to avoid having the plane sitting on its tail. Then we are going to close the fuselage, and then there would be another part. As I was not expecting that, I didn't have any decals as well for that, so you will see that a little bit later. But after I've been filling all the gaps with some white Tamiya putty, I did exactly the same as I did earlier on my Tupolev. So I didn't have any decals for the cockpit window and the passenger windows, so what I did was quite simple. I elected to basically put all the regular masking tape, and then with a very sharp knife I cut all the windows, and I used it and I did my own mask. The result is pretty good, but unfortunately what I should have done was I should have painted inside the aircraft gray or a darker color. Would have been some appreciating, but that's something to learn if you decide to do that kit. Of course, once everything was dried, it was time to basically remove the extra putty, and that's, of course, we'll do a little bit of sanding, and of course it has a tendency to take a little bit of time, but you've been watching some of my videos, some of you for quite a while now, so you know that it's quite a consuming part of airplane modeling. So after sanding down the cockpit, I realized there were still some gaps, so I had to add some more putty all around that cockpit, and I clear all the gaps with some more white putty. And of course I had to pay special attention when I decide to sand it down, avoid scratching the possible window or removing the masking tape. After that, it was time to put the wings and the horizontal stabilizer on the aircraft. And for this I use the regular needle glue from Revel. Of course, when it's dried, we'll have to add a little bit more putty, fill up all the gaps once again, but that's something you've been getting used to with my former models. Once it's dry, once again, it's time to sand down and remove all the extra putty. So the kit was not delivered with any winglets, so I have to make my own. So what I did, I took an A320 on scale 144 winglet, and then as you know, I've been using a pencil, but I've been using the outside, so it was more or less up to the scale of 125. So after that, of course, I did the other side, and I made my own winglets, and then I glued them onto the wingtip. But I have to say that it's not a big issue, but for some beginner modelers, I mean, I would not recommend to do that or to do that kit because of that issue. If you want to get something precise, I was quite disappointed. That was one of the major drawback on that kit. Something I really didn't like is the absence of winglets. So some parts are missing. I mean, they were not even designed and were not even supposed to be on the kit. So that's quite, I would say it's a little bit quite sad, but anyway. So as you can see, at some point, well, they are leaving again. I had to re-glue them once again. And then what I had to do, I had to rescribe some panel lines, because on the descriptions that I made, well, there were some issues. You have quite a few panel lines that you can rescribe, and that will give you a better result. This is what I did. After that, it was time to go to the paint booth, and so initially I painted the corrugat on the wings, on the upper side of the wings. For this, I use a mix of light gray and some metallic color as well, and that gives you that fine texture. After that, I painted the wings and the horizontal stabilizer. For this, I used some light gray mixed with some white paint, and to get that very light gray color on the wings and the horizontal stabilizer. For this airplane, I did basically the wings anti-ice with the airbrush, not like on the further model that I did. And for this, because it was much more easier to do it this way. So after covering it up, now it's time to put a white coat of paint on that model. And for this, I use the standard glossy white from Tamiya. As I had experience earlier on some other models, when you use white on white, it can be a little bit tricky because you need to make sure that you have the right coverage. So sometimes you have to use some special lights, an angle lights, and that will help you to see if you manage to cover. So once the paint was dried, of course, we had to remove all the masking tape, and then I painted with some enamel paint the engine anti-ice of that A320. It's now time to put the decals. So there is some decals for those windows. I mean, they will give you the metallic frame around the window itself, and that was perfect because I didn't put any decals or any windows, passenger windows on that kit. For this, I used basically the basic kit of the basic decal set from Air France. I have to say that it came with 4 different versions of that A320. Some are coming from the 90s up to the retro liveries and to the more modern one. And it's always the Ville of Strasbourg, which is City of Strasbourg. And so it's the same tail number through all over those years with different marking and different livery. So I have to say that the decal from LR, they are pretty good. They're a little bit thick on the end. Especially for the tail, didn't adhere correctly really to all the panel lines, but on the overall, I mean, I had a pretty decent result. You just need to use some decal solution, and that will soften your decals, and that will help you to on the irregular surfaces. The last part of the decaling process will be basically the tail numbers and all the little extra, like the engine pylons. There will be also some more decals on the around the corrugat, and those ones were pretty easy to deal with, a little bit long, so on the one side, so it was quite easy to deal them with a sharp knife. I mean, you can cut them at the proper length, and everything went according to what I was expecting. After that, there will be a little bit more under wings or doors, and some stickers that will coming around. So not a big, not a lot of trouble to add all those decals on this aircraft. It's now time to add the other carriage, and after this, well, there was some issues as well with the nose landing gear this time. so I had to do a little bit of fiddling and cutting, and that went pretty easy toward the end. So now the plane's sitting on its nose wheel, and you can now enjoy the final result, the end result of that A320 from Air France. So I hope you enjoyed that build with me. If you did so, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Just now to mention that the video was that was a nice build to do. I was not really impressed with this LR kit, but in the future I will stick normally to 1/44 scale, but I just did this one for the fun of it and to have a little change. Thank you for watching.